A win is a win. USC beat Michigan State 45-31 at the Coliseum. Most of it was really fun to watch. Not all of it. However, MVP3, Marvin, Powell III, and I, we're going to talk about what we liked, what they really need to work on this episode of Locked On USC.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Culkin, and thanks for making Locked On USC, part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching this show on YouTube, download this podcast on any platform you choose. This show is always free. This show always appreciates your support. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers, if you can bet $5, and if your first bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets that you can use across the entire FanDuel app. Download the app today. All right, Marvin, we got our offensive points right. We got that part right when we were doing our prediction. We were both pretty close to how many points USC would score. But what happened on the other side of the ledger with USC's defense allowing 31 points at home? Look, I love that USC ran the ball 37 times yesterday. And they only passed it 26 times. So I like the way that the balance of the play calling was going, considering what USC was able to do running the ball. However, that third quarter, that was weird. I mean, think about this. USC had a 24-10 halftime lead. They extended it to 31-10. They're about to receive a punt. And then all of a sudden, the wheels fell off the short bus. The team changed helmets. 10 penalties. Yeah. So let's talk about the pretty part on offense. What did you like the most? I mean, for me, Jaden Mayaba was spectacular.
Yeah, so what I loved the most was Lincoln's real commitment to running the ball. In his first 3 seasons here, fans were active because we've had a running back every year he was here. And every year he's been here the first 3 years, we said, Lincoln, run the ball. And I'm happy to see that he's truly committed to this. You can see a real change in offensive philosophy. And, he's starting the game out running the ball. We're closing the games out running the ball. We're creating our play action off running the ball. We're getting the ball to Makai Lemon running the ball. So what I liked the most was the fact that USC evidently, as the numbers show and what you see, has a good offensive line. Yes. We have good backs, and we're leaning on that. What I like is the fact that, Jaden Mayaba is sitting up there, and he had a couple scrambles, made some plays, but he's standing up there in a clean pocket just doing his thing, I thought the O-line played really well as a whole. Well, we had an injury. I wonder how that's going to impact us moving forward. But I liked running the ball. I liked the genuine offensive philosophy that Lincoln Ryan has implemented. And I like to see our guys basically look unstoppable on offense. I'm watching the game in the middle of the third quarter or the beginning of the fourth quarter. I'm asking myself, have we even punted yet? So yeah. And we did in the end, we did, and the kid kicked it like 50 yards. But that O-line play is what I really love, in addition to running that ball, 100%.
I'm so glad you brought up the offensive line, because the fact that Elijah Page, starting left tackle, went down in the second quarter, that the offensive line did not skip a beat when they kind of shuffled the deck chairs around.
Right.
Elias Raymond shifted out to right tackle. Micah Benuelos came in at left guard, did a fantastic job. You have Justin Tawanuu takes over at left tackle. Killian stays at center. Alani Noah at right guard. And they just ran the ball with such passion. They were blowing over goals. Literally, if Lincoln Riley wanted to, and I would kind of wonder if he would ever do it, he could have ran the ball every down. Yeah. And USC, they could have put up 400 yards on the ground. Right. And I get it. It's not part. You gotta keep the offense balanced. But yeah, the offensive line, the running backs, Waymon Jordan, Eli Sanders, fantastic job keeping that offense going. And when you're down Jacoby Lane, the wide receiver, you would think that would, make things a little bit more challenging. It didn't.
Yeah. So, with Jacoby going down, and again, the offense, I love our offense. I think that we are a legit run threat. We can run the ball, period. We obviously have receivers. We can throw the ball. But
Yep.
what concerned me a little bit, I'll be honest, on offense. So Jacoby doesn't play. Mekhi plays lights out. The freshman Tanook Hines played lights out. As the other freshman, I forgot his name. He had a catch and a fumble. I was waiting to see more receivers pop out. Now again, we're running the ball again. We're running the ball, which consumes the clock and kind of changes how the game goes offensively. But I am looking for, and maybe it's Tanook Hines, maybe it's the tight end position, but I'm looking for somebody from that receiver group, some of the older guys, to step in there. I saw Jay Fair at the end of toward the end of the game had
he got targeted one time.
Yeah. So, and this is the guy who I was high on, but listen, for offensively, I think the biggest surprise, other than Lincoln's commitment to running that ball, is going back to it, is the O-line. At the end of the day, these guys are controlling the run game. They're controlling the line of scrimmage. They're keeping this guy up, on 2 feet. And for me, I was worried about the O-line going into the season. I was worried about the depth. I was worried about, some of these guys who haven't played as much. And I'll tell you what, 4 games in, they look good. Really look Big Ten good.
They look like a Big Ten offensive line. They're doing their job. Yeah. Bottom line, that's where you want to throw your flowers. Say, take a bow. You guys did a fantastic job. You brought up the receiving core. Mekhi Lemon, 8 catches, 127 yards, 46 of those yards after the catch. You mentioned the wide receiver who dropped the pass, DJ Jordan.
Right.
He's a redshirt freshman. He ran a nice route, caught the ball, ran 7 yards, but you can't be flopping the ball out there like your Wendell Tyler from back in the day, thinking you can't do that.
And that has impact in the game. You see where that was part of the momentum. I think was it the third quarter?
Yes, it was.
And it's just that and the penalties that we dealt with. You can't have that. But listen, Mark, offensively, we played 4 games. We played 2 Big Ten teams, and we played 2 subpar teams. And at no point this year have I watched our offense and said to myself, that defense is going to stop our offense, or been worried about the defense stopping our offense, or been worried about, can we convert this third down? We've looked good. We've looked smooth. It's early, but they give trophies out at the end of the year. Okay. And our quarterback is looking like a guy who may get one. And I'll be honest with you. Listen, it's a long time. We got a lot of games to play, and we need to win games, but it's looking like, and not just there's a guy on defense, but we'll get there later on. Our quarterback is looking like a Lincoln Riley quarterback.
Jaden Mayaba showed flashes of Caleb Williams last night in that game. Look, you're never going to have another Caleb Williams. He's one of one.
Yeah.
Jaden's decision-making last night was fantastic. You mentioned he got moved off the spot a couple times, but he threw 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He ran for another 2 scores. He ran that one. There was 2 plays that really I'll save these for the third segment, but he's seeing the field really well right now. He's not forcing any passes. Again, no interceptions, and he's even getting some lucky bounces right now. I mean, he had a couple of passes tipped at the line of scrimmage, and one of them lands in Lake McCree's hands. Maybe Lake went and got it. Whatever. He knows where his safety valve is, and I love that it's the tight end. So, kudos to Jaden. He's playing under control. He's not letting any negativity get him down, and that's what happened last year. You could see that confidence growth in him. You really can.
Yeah. I mean, Mark, there were times last year where every time he would drop back to throw the ball, I just, I would close my eyes and just, you don't know what was going to happen. But this kid looks confident. And this is the difference in, year 2 as a starter. Last year he came into the season, started mid-season, I think it was. But it's different when you get a whole offseason, as the number one guy, and coach gets to work on you in the offseason as the number one guy, and the reps and just the priority. At the end of the day, all that builds confidence, and it also helps you to see the game slower, which he's obviously doing, because he's just sitting back there and just at ease and comfortable. When you look at his reactions to the good plays and the few bad, and haven't been many bad at all. high emotional intelligence. He's kept a right mentality. You can see his body language. You can see his whole disposition on the sideline, through everything on the field. I mean, he's a different caliber, a different kind of leader this year, and that comes with the confidence. And listen, give credit to Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley has taken a lot of heat over his first 3 seasons. Understandably, the standard is a standard. We haven't met the standard, but we see his quarterback improving. We see something different. This guy's coaching. His staff is coaching, and the players are getting better on offense, and we see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love with the physicality the offense is playing with. You never want to see other players get hurt, but man, it seemed like every time you looked up, there was a Michigan State player laying on his back trying to, what happened?
Yeah, it's what you signed up for when you come to the Coliseum to try to disrespect us wearing that green and white. No, we don't want to see guys get hurt. But at the end of the day, it's physicality. It's the game. It's the way the game should be played. It's aggressive. These guys are obviously practicing finishing blocks and just playing through the whistle. And it's evident. And the bodies are on the floor, and they're not Trojans.
All right, we got a couple more segments to go. We're gonna go. Hey, yo, defense, what's going on in this next segment? Oh, there we go. All right, quick question for all of you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time, sit front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, what hat would you be wearing? Yes, I said hat. For me, it would be the game. These aren't just hats. These are the same vintage styles that the fans wore back in the 80s, the 90s, and guess what? Same price. You can get that same look for the same price that you paid back then. When you use code LOCKED ON, you're going to get your vintage hat for $16.99. Head to gamecaps.com. That's one word, thegamecaps.com. Grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design and use code LOCKED ON for an exclusive discount because legends wear the game. All right, Marvin, let's talk about the defense. Statistically, they had a drop. They only recorded 2 sacks. They only had 7 tackles for loss. But they were in the backfield a lot. They were creating a lot of pressure. They kept getting Aiden Childs, Michigan State's athletic quarterback, to kind of scramble around and make plays. Here's what I like. They only allowed 123 rushing yards. But I'll take that number. What I did not like was the secondary. They are getting gashed. This is the 4th game in a row where they've given up big splash plays. It happened early in the game with that 40-yard touchdown, and that 75-yarder, probably picked off a lot of people who had money on that game because that was the spread.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are you seeing on TV? I have yet to watch a replay yet.
Yeah.
But the secondary has some issues, and we could talk about the penalties as well. It's just getting out of control.
So what I'm seeing on defense, I'm seeing an elite pass rush. I'm seeing a nationally ranked elite pass rush who for 4 games has been giving quarterbacks hell. Listen, we are in that backfield 3 out of 4 pass plays on defense with bringing 4 people with a 4-man rush. We're coming off the edge. I mean, you would think we have 2 Lawrence Taylors out there, to be honest with you. So we have an elite pass rush. Eric Gentry is playing out of his mind. This kid's playing. We'll come back to him. Desmond Stevens, I saw him making plays yesterday, so I like that. Kamari Ramsey is a good player. I really like Kamari. We're having troubles on the outside. We're having trouble with the corner. I don't know. And listen, some of that stuff is scramble drill and the receivers running, but like you said, that 75-yard touchdown pass, and there were a few others where, I feel like you're just out of position, Yeah. And you have to get better at that. Again, we're not dealing with, 1995 Pac-10 quarterbacks here, but, this conference, every team has a receiver. It seems like every team we've played has made some passing plays against us that are a bit concerning. So you're hoping that these corners can get coached up and get this thing right. Maybe it's some of the calls. I mean, maybe this off man isn't for us. I don't know. But it seems like the corner is our issue right now.
So I would say cornerback, that nickel position, they got to get that figured out as well. I don't know. I'm not sure how comfortable Kamari is playing nickel right now. I don't know if there's communication issues, but yeah. I mean,
he's a caliber DB that can play a few positions. Obviously, I think he's better playing back and just reading and reacting, to be honest with you. But at this point, we're a defense that is relying on our pass rush to save our DBs in passing situations. That's really what it comes down to. I think we have some teams coming up that are going to try to run the ball. We're going to be tested. The guys in the middle, Keyshawn and Jarrett, they've made plays. And how about Jakeem Stewart coming on the scene? How about
that was about to say Thanos has arrived.
How about this 17-year-old stud out here balling in the Big Ten under the big lights, making big plays, looking like a future number 1 overall draft pick. Listen, we're in the middle of it, but the defense will get better. We just hope that we hope that there's a high enough ceiling for our coverage defense to be able to get better. The pass rush is there. So far from what we've seen, the run defense is there, tackles for losses, pressures on the quarterback. I mean, you just hope that we don't face a monster that can go out there and just launch it over the field. Because if we can't get to him, that could be a problem. Could be a problem.
There was that one play where Thanos, or Jakeem Stewart, on the snap, I thought he was going to take the handoff. Yeah. That's how quickly he was at the mesh, and I'm surprised they did not turn that ball over. I mean, that was
right. Yeah, he shot in there.
Fast times at Ridgemont High on that type of play.
Yeah, freakish athlete, and to play in the inside, play 1 technique, freakish athlete, strong, quick. I told you a couple episodes ago, he reminds me of a Darrell Russell, rest in peace. Just freakish athlete playing in the middle, just disruptor, and he's so young. He has so many areas to improve his game, but he's out there making plays. Again, guys, defensively, I like our front a lot. I like our front against anybody, most teams, to be honest with you. We get into passing situations. We need to play better. We do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And the other thing there's 2 things that stood out that I thought the tackling against Michigan State kind of slipped a little bit. Had the guy wrapped up, especially the quarterback, and he got a little slippery, got away. I mean, Braylon Shelby had 1.5 sacks, and Devin Tompkins had the other half. Devin, he had an impact there. You could see him doing his job, even though it doesn't show up on the stat line. I thought those 2 played the best on the defensive line. But what's going on with these hands to the face penalties? Every game.
Lincoln, listen, yesterday in his post-game conference, I'm sure you saw, Lincoln addressed it, and I kind of agree with him, and I was feeling like that before he even said what he said. Listen, when you're playing physical, you're playing aggressive, and you're teaching your team to attack, and you're teaching an aggressive mentality, these things happen. This is kind of, what comes with that a little bit. Now, we had 10 penalties. Last week was bad. You could talk about the officiating, but there's also a common denominator, and that's us. So with that, we need to work on the hands to the face. We need to work on the running into the punter, even though I told you a few episodes, we're going to block a punt. These guys are ultra aggressive. In that instance, for us, our guy was pushed into the punter. Different situation. Yeah, he was. But the penalties are just part of the aggressive mentality that we have. At the end of the day, when you look at some of the best teams in football, some of the best defenses in football, teams with the best records, at the end of the season, they've been penalized. They've had some people because they go get it. They go get it. They're ambitious about it. They're aggressive about it. And that's the mentality. You just have to be smart enough to be able to have that balance to where it doesn't hurt us in the end, because it killed momentum. It impacted momentum in that game, a game in which we had complete control. At no point in the game did you watch that game and say, oh, my God, I hope we can stop them. oh my God, I hope they don't stop us. At no point in that game did you have any worries about who was the better team and who was in control. But as we move on, and again, the first 4 weeks, the teams have gone a little bit better. It's no different this week coming up, So a turnover or two, couple calls, that changes the game. And a team who you should beat by 21, 28, 35, now you're in a 14-point dogfight,
And that's what was so discouraging is, like you mentioned, USC had a 31-10 lead. They're going back to receive the punt. All of a sudden, the rusher gets blocked into the kicker. So it's not roughing, it's running into 5-yard penalty. It's still 4th down. It gives Coach Smith the comp and say, hey, let's go get that yard or yard and a half, whatever they needed. And then there were 3 more penalties on that drive that led to the score. It's like you said, you can't kill your own momentum. When you have a chance to step on another team's neck, put them away, you can't let that happen. Because when that 4th quarter started, I looked at both sidelines. The Spartan sideline, it was juiced. They were bumping up. They were jumping up and down, having a good time. The USC sideline was like, all right, let's gather together. Let's recharge ourselves. And you don't want to see that when you're at home. That's not the way it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
So if there is one criticism of Lincoln Riley's team, his program, this is something that happens often with his teams. They have big leads and they give them up in the second half. And again, I know this sounds like I'm harshing on him. I'm being too critical, but we just have to look at his history. It happened last year. It happened when he was at Oklahoma in the playoffs. It's happening now. I understand being aggressive. You never want to take that away, but you got to clean this up. You got to show that the team can knuckle down when you have to, because as you said, the schedule's only going to get harder. And if you do this on the road, even against a team that just got BTA, belt ass, 63-10, you can't do that on the road against any team because you're going to come home with an L. You just are.
Yeah. And that starts this week. That starts this week. Obviously, going into this next matchup, but yeah, this is a team that obviously, physicality has been taught and has been preached, and we're seeing it in the way they run the ball. You're seeing it in the way they rush the passer. One thing I will tell you about our DBs, we've had some trouble in coverage. They're physical. That matters. These boys, they come up and hit. They come up and hit you. They come up. Listen. Antonlynn is using those boys in his blitz packages because they're aggressive. They're fast. They're coming off that edge. They're helping us. They're significant in the run game. So for as much as they have to improve, for as much as the first third of this season, we look at it and we say, okay, coverage is our issue. We still are good at all 3 levels. We still have players at all 3 levels. We need to be disciplined at all 3 levels so we can bring this thing together. Because ultimately, we're trying to get to the point where when we get to the end of the season, we have a bunch of wins and we're getting ready for the playoffs. These boys, that's our mentality. Like, we should be thinking about the end game. Again, the standard is the standard. So for us, we take every game serious. We approach every opponent with respect. But we're thinking about championship. We're thinking about playoffs. We're thinking about Big Ten championship. That's the standard. And when we get to that point in the season, if we earn that opportunity to get to that point in the season, we're going to have our coverage down. Because at that point, the only teams making it are teams who can do everything well or well enough.
Absolutely. And again, just to, throw a few flowers at the defense. Eric Gentry led the team with 6 tackles. Devin Tompkins also had 6 tackles. Desmond Stevens 5, Christian Pierce 4, Bishop Fitzgerald 4. So there you've got all 3 levels of the defense chiming in, from the secondary, linebackers, defensive line. I think we just want to see a little bit more consistency. So
and let me be clear. Listen, I love our defense as a whole. As a whole, I love our defense. I do. I love our defense. As I said, I think we have a high ceiling, and I think these guys will get better. I'm looking at our pass rush, and I'm just thinking, listen, this is a championship caliber pass rush without question. Coach Nua, Coach Haney, they got these boys humming, coming up the middle, coming off the edge.
Yeah, the front 7, they've been great so far. The back half, Antonlynn and Coach Belk, Coach Trovon Reed, they got to tighten up the bolts a little bit. They got to get that secondary cleaned up so USC can just start looking like a well-oiled machine, both sides of the ball.
Yeah,
So
and we go into this week, and I think we have a bye after this. So
yes,
it's time for us to get healthy. It's an opportunity for us to get healthy, get our guys going. We had a couple of injuries that I'm still curious about. We want to see what's going on with our O-line, but yeah, this is a big one coming up for sure.
absolutely. All right, got one more segment to go. We're going to talk about what stood out the most. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for a kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers, you can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets that you can use across the entire FanDuel app. I mean, hello, 5 for 300? Sign me up. You're going to love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player prop bets, building the same game parlay if you're into that. Maybe you just want to jump into the action live as it's unfolding. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. This episode is brought to you by Square, your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar that's packed on game days, that local coffee shop that knows your order by heart, maybe the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. So what does supporting our community look like? Well, spending money there doesn't just support the business, it supports the people behind it and the community around it. Here are just a few places that run on Square near USC that you might enjoy. Have you heard of Dulce inside the village? Great place. Check it out. Also in the neighborhood, Courage Bagels, and I love tacos, so hit up Tacos LA 26. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnCollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood. All right, Marvin. A lot of things stood out in that game. What stood out the most? Give me the one thing that you're like, you know what? I got to talk about this. And whether good or bad, what stood out the most to you?
I'll be honest, and it's being redundant, but going into the season, we knew we had receivers. We brought in some running backs. The biggest question was the quarterback. The biggest question is in my opinion, what are we getting at quarterback? And this kid continues to impress. He's so consistent with the smoothness and the decision making. It's game after game. A lot of that has to do with the O-line and how well they're playing. Because I couldn't answer your question with the O-line play, because that was also a question mark. But in college football 2025, this is a quarterback-driven situation. And I wanted to know if we had a guy, and we do have a guy. Without question, we have a guy.
Without a doubt. There's a few things that stood out. Waymon Jordan he's that guy. I would like him to stop trying to play Chan Ho Park from the LA Dodgers way back when, with those kind of hurdle guys are doing a karate kick to somebody's face.
I can't stand that. These kids today, they all hurdle. I don't understand that.
But it looked like he kicked the dude in the face instead.
Yeah.
So
he does it a lot.
References back in the day, there was a pitcher for the Dodgers named Chan Ho Park. One of the batters was coming at him, and he did one of those Bruce Lee type of things. I was like, you're not supposed to do that in baseball. You're not supposed to try and hurdle a defender who's standing straight up, because you're going to get hurt. Stop doing that. But I loved that. You mentioned Jade Mayava. The offensive line was fantastic. But again, I hate to harp on the negativity, but they've got to clean up those penalties, man. That is going to come back to bite you. When you're doing everything right, you're building up momentum, you're putting points up on the scoreboard. Don't make life more difficult for yourself. Really don't. And I also want to point this one thing out before we close the show. I was actually mildly surprised with how many fans showed up for that late kickoff.
What was the number?
I don't know if they actually made the announcement. Here we go. 67,614.
Okay.
Not bad. Not bad.
Well, then Lincoln and Chad sent out a letter to USC Nation.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. So the student section, fantastic. Thought they did a great job. The fans that showed up, great job. We got to hear the Spirit of Troy. There wasn't a DJ this time, so there was that going on as well.
Yeah.
Let's just I said at the beginning of the week last week, I said, this is a trap game. They might be looking ahead to Illinois. I won't say they did that, but they got past the trap. They're 4-0. Yeah. We'll see where they move up in the polls. I don't know how much they'll move up, but now they're facing an Illinois team that's no longer undefeated.
Nah.
They got spanked 63-10. I didn't watch the game. I should say I watched it by watching the scoreboard, and every time I looked up, I was like, oh, Indiana scored again.
Yeah.
Indiana scored again.
Yeah. And listen, for them, that's special motivation. You know, for Illinois, this is special motivation coming off a bad loss, and you got the boys from Southern Cal coming to town.
Yeah. We're gonna see what happens. That happens soon. So USC goes from a late kickoff at home, 8 p.m., 11 p.m. if you're a Michigan State fan. Now they're gonna have an early kickoff. It's going to be 9 a.m. here on the West Coast, 11 a.m. Illinois time. So we'll see if Coach Riley and the staff can get these guys all back on the same page, pointed in the right direction. And like you said, you know what? We want them to be aggressive. We just don't want them to be aggressive and stupid at the same time. You can do both. You can do both. So, all right, we will have another episode of Locked on USC tomorrow. That's what we do every day, 5 times a week, sometimes even more. I will have MVP3 back on again this week. We're going to talk about Illinois. So until that next episode, everyone, you know what to do. I'm going to bed.
Fight on.